Test, test. Yeah, I guess we're rolling along here. And well, good morning, everybody. I'm Tim Dermick, and this is Georgina Speaks. And I'm here today once again with Martin Nash, for which I'm grateful.
Good morning, everybody.
So what are we talking about?
Well, it seems like we have that ongoing lakefront issue thing that's becoming more and more interesting every day.
A couple of housekeeping, cleaning issues, I guess I always call them, but a couple of things. I'm hoping to interview a gentleman soon for our podcast by the name of Tom Sandler. And he's actually a Canadian renowned photographer. He was one of the national newspapers for years and years. And he's photographed the royal family, Madonna, all the entertainers over the years.
Oh, right.
And his mom, her name was Ruth Lowe, I believe. She actually wrote Frank Sinatra's first hit song.
Nice.
And his name's Tom Sandler. He's actually named after Tommy Dorsey from the Dorsey Band. Anyway, so I just want to, hopefully we'll get that get done. And I'm trying to think of what else we're working on. There was something else I had in my mind, but my mind's pretty feeble, so I guess we might as well get right into the meat of the conversation, eh?
Well, I read your draft letter, or the draft letter to the town with regards to doing an R plan, which we did. That's where we kind of left off last time. Was that the subject of ownership would be a lot easier to discuss if everybody kind of knew what it was. So we decided that probably a good first step would be to get an R plan and find out what lands we're really talking about here, and so that everybody can define their positions and look at their rights according to what they may or may not have with a real R plan. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be lots of slivers of land, but there's going to be lots of other ones too. So it should be very interesting to see what comes out of that.
Absolutely, and so I'm actually quite. It's very telling that how desperate the residents are just to have a voice, just to actually feel like they're participating in all of it again, because the lawyer actually, in his actions, and I'm not sure it was his intent, but it definitely was a result of his actions, that everybody just felt like they were just cut out. And what should have been the committees and the residents working with council and everybody kind of agreeing on, and then all of a sudden, wham, you're cut out and all of that stuff. So I've talked to a few lawyers, and as have you, in recent days, and I was trying to figure out a couple of things. One was what in God's name a lawyer would do, what he did that day to just cut everything off, to tell everybody, we own your property, so you got no say, and if you don't play ball, we're going to fence it off and tear your boat out. And I say it in the most negative, extreme way possible to make that guy look as bad as I possibly can.
Well, it's kind of mentioning draconian measures to get something that can be resolved, and I think that hopefully everybody's intent would be to resolve it and not go to those extremes. Yeah. And but to mention them was a bit of I was real eye opener when I saw that council meeting. Yeah. I was surprised that they would counsel them, you can do all these things to these people. Well, that's not what the council's there for. The council's there to represent the people, not to go against them and to say, we can throw them, we can just take their boathouses down and do whatever we want with those properties. I think that, or we have rights to do all these, I would say, draconian measures, which are not necessary, of course. And
so everybody knows that. Everybody who watched that, was there that night, was shocked. And I don't know that the lawyer just stepped in it. That's exactly what he did. But went to that extreme for any other reason. But he just thought he was saying the right thing at the time. I have no idea, and I don't care. But the thing is that what would be the purpose of that? I mean, so what I did was in my I phoned a few lawyers that know about this stuff, and I spoke to one yesterday about, so the town's claiming they own. What happens if anybody challenges it? Like if they had have gone through with this process, what happens if anybody challenges it? What could they challenge it on? Or what are the different type of categories? Right. I asked specifically, give me the different categories that represent the entire lakefront. And so if I just want to go down the categories quickly because it'll give people an idea. There's basically properties all along there that have been put into land titles. Different individual properties, people have paid their lawyer to go ahead and have their lawyer put into land titles. And when property gets put into land titles, it gives you a thing called title absolute, and it's a title that can never be challenged after that. So, and part of that process when they do that is the town, as one of the interested parties, is petitioned. Do you have an interest here? It's part of establishing, right? And in every case, the town has declined to exert an ownership interest.
Right.
Now, how could they possibly not exert an interest in this one, and now say, well, we own the one next door?
Well, that's going to be a big problem.
Okay, so that's a challenge. That's one.
Yeah.
There's other ones. There's another group of them that are in land registry, not land titles. They're in land registry because of the complexity at the time, and because no clear title at the time was able to be established. Then they remained in land titles, and there'll be some of them will be a big strip along the lake, and it'll have just a PIN number. But all the properties in association across the road associated with it will all have that PIN number associated with their property.
Right.
So if you call that PIN number up, there's a number of names that will come up under that PIN number. So there'll be pieces of it that entitled technically would be the mutually owned by all of them.
Right. Well, I think we used to call it deeded beach rights down in the south end of town. Or if you just bought something on Cedar Home or
something
whatever,
right in the deed.
And
says,
you got we as realtors we used to say, and by the way, you have a right to use that beach down there. You got to pay $25 or $30, so they cut the grass. But after that, you've got use of it. So
that was a real nightmare for the town to try and sort out.
Well, they're having meetings about that again now. About parks and waterfront parks. I don't know. Well, I haven't been to one of those. I guess nobody is really going to them.
A couple of friends of mine are members of the Miami Beach. Mm-hmm. So, silly me, they were trying to sort out where they stand these days because the buildings get into disrepair. So they're trying to figure out what do we do if we get money and who owns and who has rights. And so the Miami Beach Association. So I said to my lawyer, do me a favor, would you search everything out for me and send me all the documentation, the corporate documentation for that nonprofit organization because it's registered nonprofit. They got registered in '82 or whenever it was. Couple of updates, and the one person who still is the president is extremely old now, and they don't know where any of the documents were. So I got all the documents and I sent them to them, and but it really demonstrated how at the meeting last July, I think Dave Redding was bringing up the fact that, and I think Alan Darenfault mentioned it as well, that because none of it ever gets maintained, in any corporate sense, any legal corporate sense, then it's very hard to track who do you talk to about getting something done here. Well, how does the town address it? So it was really a graphic demonstration or example of exactly what they were talking about. Beach associations are very hard because you try the nonprofits and then there's so many reporting regulations and stuff with them that you can't.
Well, and there's lots of liability issues on all of them too. And that's why the people would go into a nonprofit in case something happened on the beach. And then, there's lots of reasons to do what they did. But as you say, it's very disorganized.
So then, so that's the land titles. And then there's land registry where there's pins. Some are individual pins that actually belong to the one across the road. Right. Or technically, they're demonstrating as if they have title of the one across the road. And then the town could challenge that or vice versa. So then the next category is there's a number of ones that are along there that were developed by subdivision agreement. There's Paradise Beach. I think McNamara did a development there, and people get two deeds. One is a solid deed for the dry side of the road, which is the property that they're purchasing, and then the other side is McNamara actually gave a quick claim deed, and the quick claim deed says, I'm deeding you whatever rights I have on that. They're not declaring what the rights are because nobody really knows.
Right.
So they're just quick claiming any rights they have. And that is the clearest demonstration that these properties are ambiguous at best.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It's clearly the town has some rights there and the people also have some rights there. Nobody has ownership rights in the traditional sense of the word. So that's a third category of a number of different properties along there. Yeah. So that's 3. And then there's a number of people that have nothing. So that's another category, people where they actually don't have anything in relation to across the road or whatever. So that's another category, that's 4. And then the other category, 5, would be, there's a number of properties that well, you know about the Ministry of Natural Resources has the mapping for the lake bottom.
Right.
Right. And with permission from the Ministry of Natural Resources, a number of people over the last 100 years have filled in and they have reclaimed a certain amount of land there. So even if you allow that the town owns the road allowance, what's on the other side of that is this land.
Right.
And for the town can't stop you from going on the road allowance to your property.
Right.
And that is not the town's property. And the ministry has granted you those ownership rights. Actually, technically, the ministry has ownership rights.
Well, there was 2. Like, you could rent it or buy it from them, so much a square foot for the land, and especially down in the south end, which this doesn't relate to, but down in the south end, it's been silting in for years, and people are cutting grass 30 feet into the lake bottom. They don't even know it.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like, and they're the adjacent owners, so they use it. The same kind of thing we're talking about here.
Yeah.
But in some of those other cases, the ministry gave people the ability to buy that silted in, or from the lake bottom to in some property that they might have, whether it's a boathouse or some land or whatever, and so they allowed them to buy that. So then you've got like, and that may rear its ugly head too with regard to this R plan, because a lot of people are going to end up looking at what they're going to do about this town thing, and then they're going to realize that they're 10 feet into the lake bottom, and they got to buy that or rent it
the town can't even sell it to them.
Yeah.
Town can't even sell it to them because they don't own it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of silly. Oh, I don't know if we mentioned this at the top of this whole podcast, but I think we did, but I'm not sure. But in our last podcast, Martin and I were talking about a recommendation that he mostly came up with. He lets me yip while he's thinking, and then he says about 10 words, and it's kind of, anybody who knows him kind of likes to call him Captain Obvious. But sometimes the obvious is what you never see until Captain Obvious says, well, why don't you just do this, So I'm grateful for that. So anyway, what we had come up with at that time was a recommendation through our consultations with people that we know, lawyers and so on, was to have the R plan done right away. And as a sign of good faith that we thought maybe the residents should offer to pitch in from their litigation fund a chunk of money, and they've done that. The residents have put forward an offer to the town and council to that they'll put in $25,000 towards the R plan and getting the R plan done if the town will order it right away. And good. So then now that we're there,
okay,
that was something I wanted to address, and that is that if I don't know why that lawyer did what he did, but I can't think of any of the other. He knew when he said, we own 90%, but he didn't say, mind you, if 10 people challenge that, he gets to charge the town about $500,000 to legally defend it.
Well, of course, yeah. So it's
right.
It's almost like a divorce here.
Yeah, well, it is almost like a divorce here, where we get everybody in their corner and the 2 lawyers. And the most classic one in that regard was I remember 2 lawyers that were fighting over a couple that were at it tooth and nail, and they fought for 3 years tooth and nail. You're not doing this, and I'm going to get that, and whatever. And then in the end, when the fight finally over?
Likely when the money ran out.
They ran out of money. Both lawyers said, we better get this settled. Well, this is the same thing, exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Like that lawyer proposing that. It's not even possible that the town could say we own it and nobody's going to challenge it. So he knows,
right.
Number one. Number two, the town can't allow people have rights, and their rights are not established. And he says things like there's no such a thing as squatters' rights on town property, which would be a road allowance. But what he neglects to say is, we weren't talking about squatters' rights. For 100 years, the town have declared the people across the road have exclusive use of it. Right. They can't just all of a sudden one day say, we're going to put a fence up, you're done, and we don't care that you built a boathouse with a permit, we're going to rip it down.
Yeah.
So all of that's designed to get a fight going.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, because that's the draconian measures that he call
Right.
it. They from A to Z. A is to resolve it, and Z is to do these measures. You know, and it's just getting everybody going by the looks of what I saw.
And every lawyer I spoke to, by the way, did mention that by virtue of that fact, by the fact that he took that draconian approach and neglected to advise counsel, well, actually, if you take this approach, anybody challenges it, and it's going to cost you $500,000, and he didn't, and that $500,000 would be going into his pocket, by the way.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're a taxpayer in the town of Georgina, you should be watching what's going on here right now, because I've been here before, and when I was right at this juncture in my particular case, I went to the town and I said, "Can we just try to sit down and work this out?" And the town lawyer pretty much laughed at me. It was Charles Loopster at the time, and the CAOs went in. And they pretty much laughed me out of the building like they had me, you know, like they got the big purse, they're going to beat me up, whatever. Yeah, whatever, for whatever reason. I don't want to put words in their mouth or thoughts in their head, but all I wanted was some recognition for existing lot owners, you know, that they paid taxes for 100 years. Like, they should get something out of this, some credit or some whatever. And so I wanted to try to work it out amiably, and they just laughed. And the town spent $500,000 just so he could lose to me, which was glorious, I have to say. You know? So, but it almost killed me. That 3-year thing almost killed me, and it was totally unnecessary. It was a total waste of the taxpayers' money, and a total waste of all of our time. Here right now, there's a group of people that actually have rights. They have many of them ownership rights. Many of them, at the very least, clearly established rights of use. And you cannot put a fence up to somebody that you've allowed to use that property for 100 years. It's not squatters' rights, and it's not necessarily town property. But even if it is, they've been given the rights for the last period of time. And ownership, by even the town's description, has been, you know, dubious at best, or unattainable. A clear ownership is not. So it's always been understood. Everybody has to agree here. So you know that, and if I was a town, I would get another legal opinion.
Well, I think so. The other, like, and what you're saying is that the residents have offered up some money to get this R plan done, which is the first necessary step. We've all kind of all agree with that. Then you know what the fight's about, if there is going to be one. At least you know, every resident, everybody the town, everybody's going to know what's there. Because I'm sure that there's no way that anyone's going to know what's there. I mean, I don't care. Even if you walk every inch of that property, you're still not going to know. You know what's there. So the R plan is necessary. And as you say, like if they just a couple of people objecting, they get the lawyer going. There's be $100,000 for small. They can get this R plan done, and then and then decide whether they want to what they're going to do about these rights and so on. Because it's but it is a decision of council with regards to these rights. It is a decision they can make. Yeah,
well, and the decision that they make is going to determine how much the taxpayers are going to spend. And in this case, if we go ahead this way, taxpayers don't spend a penny. And the reason that this is the way that they should go is because it's got nothing to do with the taxpayers. Actually, its majority of it is private land, even if not in ownership but in use. Everybody understands that's a residential community along the lake. It's private community along the lake, on the lakeside. It's a lovely view. Everybody loves to go for a drive along there on a Sunday. If that whole thing gets blown wide open, it won't be so pretty anymore. I'm really convinced of that. Every lawyer I spoke to, one other little point I wanted to make, every lawyer I spoke to seemed to think, and I wouldn't know because I'm just, I don't know the law, but that lawyer has disqualified himself to participate in this conversation any further.
Oh yeah, I don't know about that, but
well, that's I asked because you know me, I have my I shoot from the lip and I have my opinions about everything, but I do go away and I check after I've shot my lip off. I go and check with people who know, people who with experience, and every single one of them said absolutely that lawyer has disqualified himself because because of what he said. We own everything and we're going to kick people off the property. But what he didn't say, which is, if anybody challenges that position, the town will have to spend $500,000 in legal fees. and it's only a coincidence that those would be going into his pocket. Right. So even even if it was an oversight on his part, it was a very severe mistake because it divided a group of people that were actually trying to work together. And council at the time that he did that was in the middle of having the discussion about it. Why waste money if we don't know who? Like, that was the conversation that they were having. And they were having the conversation based on the advice that he had given them. Right. He had advised them right up to that point, we can't know for sure that we own these lands. And they were having the discussion about it. And he, instead of allowing them to finish their discussion, he jumped in with, oh, no, we know we own everything. So what other lawyers have told me is that he has disqualified himself legally in the conversation.
That's possible.
Yeah. Well, I don't. That's why I always ask other people, because if I say it, it's just because I'm a bullheaded nut. But
I guess time will tell on that one.
Yeah, it sure will. I guess I just wanted to thank the residents for their support and what I'm doing. And I did, I've had lots of really good response. I can tell you too, you know what, I've had money committed to our efforts, in excess of what it would cost to defend. Like, I've had that many people call me and say, this is how much you need, 500 a piece, 1,000 a piece, whatever they need.
Right.
That between the pool that they have, the residents have now, and what's been offered to us by people who just want to support what we're doing because they believe in what we're doing.
Right.
That amount easily exceeds what it would cost to challenge everything. So I don't want it to be a challenge everything thing. I want council and the residents.
Yeah. They can put it to bed pretty easily, but they need to get this R plan done so that they because they may end up, they may be able to solve 98% of it without too much trouble, and with a little bit of trouble, and that's all, and then it can be just done, because it's that's the right thing to do, I think. That's my guess.
So if you're a taxpayer in the town of Georgina, the one thing that you should know right now is that there is an offer from the residents to the council, and council's making a decision what to do about it right now, and I believe if they make the right decision, the path of least resistance would be to work along with the residents.
And it's a good faith offer too, and from the residents, I think
it's a very good faith offer,
because they realize too that we need to get going forward with this in a proper manner. So I think they've taken a really good first step, or maybe one of many that I don't know about, but at least since we've been talking, that's a good first step. Yeah.
And if the reason a taxpayer needs to watch it is because if the town just goes to that lawyer and he tells me, no, don't worry about this, we can fight these people, it's $500,000 in taxpayers' dollars.
Yeah.
That's going to go to that guy's pocket, number one. Number two, totally unnecessary. And this council is going to be making that decision. It's a really important one. So
yeah, well, let's hope they make the right move.
So I guess there's, do you have anything else?
No, I think we're good. Yeah.
Tell Barb I said hello.
Yeah.
Justin and the grandkid.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, thanks so much, Martin. I really appreciate you taking the time. It was just a quick one, but I thought that taxpayers should know what's going on with that. And
but I'm glad to be here for a few minutes. Just we were kind of step by step. Now an offers have gone in, and I don't know how many people know about that, but hopefully now a few more will know about it.
Yeah, and the thing is so what are we doing next? I guess we're going to get into this whole Merck thing, eh?
I would think that's the next big one, eh?
We got
2 or 3 elephants in this room. I can't even move.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice to get past this, but I started looking into that whole Merck thing a while back. So what I do is I just, if you try to start looking at the pennies and the dollars and to try to make it not happening. But what I do is I just take the overall budget, take what's involved in that budget. Like there's a library being proposed there. There's some recreational stuff. So there's a number of parts of the Georgina budget that are going to be, that they can say, oh, we're saving money here, so we can do it here. So I take those budgets. I look at the town of Newmarket, the town of Richmond Hill, the town of Aurora, and their overall budgets are there. What percentage is going to this?
Right. What's
the population? And as soon as you do the correlations, they're really simple figures. 2 plus 2 is 4. It still is. Me and my grade 8 education, 2 plus 2 is 4. So, and that never changes. So I'm really looking forward to getting into the whole, whether it makes any sense or is it just a bunch of glossy folders that some consultant come up with to show that we should do this. $38 million, the taxpayers' money.
Yeah, see, I don't even know the figures, but I remember it was 20, then it was 25, and then it was 30.
Yeah,
and now you're saying that I didn't even read that, but that sounds like
30, well, someone told me 38 million.
Yeah, I don't know
I could
that.
be wrong, by the way. I have been. There was once back in 1986 I was wrong, but
yeah. No, I never heard that figure, but I didn't
well,
look into it
here's
either.
the point.
Yeah.
It 17 million you said you heard, and then you heard 25 million. Yeah. So just in those planning stages, it's already
It sounds like an auction.
Yeah, it sounds like an auction. It's already $10 million cost overruns just in the planning stage. So I mean, when they get that built, if it starts at 38 million when they start, they're going to be at 60 when they're done.
Yeah.
And just figure out how many hours some poor guy down on Walter Drive has to work to pay that much in taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, forever.
All right,
Anyway,
well, we'll get to that one another time. Thanks,
Yep.
Tim. And
Thanks, Martin.
Take care.
You too.
Everybody.
See you later, guys.